What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Ovenge channel. As you can see behind me, we finally pulled in the 2011 CTS-V. This is a 6-speed manual car. It has full Recaros with, I guess, tan Alcantara. And beautiful, beautiful car, one of my dream cars. The one thing that I want to do on this today is that I want to change the plugs and I want to change the coil wires. At the beginning of the season, this season, which was really only a couple weeks ago, I was having a misfire on cylinder 8 really bad. But it was only happening under boost, so below 13 pounds of boost, the car was fine, running fine. Above 13 pounds, it was breaking up so bad, like something fierce. So went online and done a bunch of research like I always do, and turns out that I was having what's called a spark plug blowout issue. And what that actually is, it's not that the spark is getting blown out, it's just that I want to say the cylinder pressure under so much pounds of boost, it wasn't enough current for the spark plug to actually initiate spark at all. So I'm going to show you how to rectify that, and I'll show you exactly what to do, and we'll get started. I'm going to let that cool down because I just pulled it out, but these cars were really hot. So we're going to start by taking essentially all this plastic stuff off, which kind of retains heat anyways. And then we're going to remove this bar here. You could probably get around it with the bar in place, but for the amount of time it takes to take these things off, you might as well just bang them off fairly quick. Just a couple clips and little rubber seals type deals, and really easy to take apart. 18mm socket. Just remove this bar super quick. It's actually a bolt and nut. We have this little threaded insert here on both sides. Get that out of the way. So as you can see, that opens up quite a bit of space. For the amount of time it takes to actually remove that, is just as easy to pop it off for the two nuts and the two bolts. So guys, as you can see, we have an air rate intake, just a 4-inch intake, and I actually ran it down to a green filter. That's the name of the filters, green filters. We have a 90mm, a little bit ported throttle body, nothing too aggressive. We do have a meth kit from Alcantara Control on here, and you will see me tuning that in. I haven't tuned it yet with that. But the reason I actually went with Cadillac Control is because with this setup, and it wasn't really an aggressive setup, it was very tame. At the time, it was a 2.5 upper. That was the first round of mods. I put a 2.5 upper onto it, along with 1050X injectors. So pretty ordinary standard stuff when that first round of mods you do to your car. And once I sent the data log to the tuner, we were in a battle. There was no the car would just consistently pull timing, it would go into knock retard, and it was just, that little bit of boost was just too much for essentially Newfoundland fuel. Newfoundland fuel is bottom of the barrel. If you're watching this series, you're going to be like, man, that guy down talks Newfoundland a lot, but it is what it is. When you're a car guy, it's not the place to be. But yeah, so we had 91 octane, that's the most we can get, and I don't even know if it's that. But the tuner, which is Pat Guerrero down in Texas, we do remote tuning on this car, and he actually emailed me. He said, Mitch, I'm not sure if your pets are clogged or what the hell's on the go with your car, but like, I have very little timing into it. The car is very tame right now, and it's not making any horsepower. We don't really know what's wrong with it. So being that this car at the time only had probably 28,000 kilometers, which is like, I don't know, 18,000 miles, maybe something like that for the US friends watching. It was very unlikely for the cats to be clogged, but I deleted that. I went right straight through, because why not if you're gone this far with it. And came around a little bit. Turns out the fuel was absolute garbage, and still is. So I was going to battle that with an Alcantara Control system, because the meth, I guess you want to call it meth injection, it actually ups your octane rating, and it'll stop the knock retard, and a little bit better, cooler intake temps, etc. So that's what I was going to battle this with. But believe it or not, I actually went and got some octane booster, which I don't know if I have any left, is VP Octanium, and I ran a couple of those in the car, and it seemed like it stabilized it enough, believe it or not. Before this, I was totally against like octane boosters because I thought it was just kind of, you know, folklore really. But it does work, and I must say, so we actually got a bit more timing in the car, and the car was running strong. I done away with all the knock retard, so I said, okay, well, that's probably a little bit safer than running meth. So fast forward, I decided that, hey, I'm going to do another round of mods because I already have the meth. I went with full cooling mods. It has CNR racing heat exchanger, along with a Petersburg high flow coolant pump, get that fluid flowing a bit faster. Along with the, after that, I actually done lower pulley with, it's an 8.86 with the fluid dampener. So it's one of those combos. So the car came right back up, and once again I was back in the knock retard because I was putting too much boost in for our crappy fuel again, once again. So I said, okay, well, I guess now we're definitely going to have to go with the meth just to get that knock retard out of the car. So turns out, I said, you know what, I'm going to go one step further, and I want to put a cam in this car. The cam definitely frees up, makes the, you know, makes it a little bit more efficient, a little bit more airflow, etc., etc. With the cam, I dropped a couple PSI boost, and it just brought me under the threshold that the car was running solid again. So I decided to step away from the Alky control again and just run my intake booster onto it. Seems to run fine. There's no knock retard at all now. The car runs extremely strong. So I kind of left this, but I think this year it's the curiosity is getting the better of me. So even with the lower intake temps, IATs, I think it'll be fine. I will have to run it pre-boost, which is before the supercharger, so it will have to be 100% meth. We're going to change out our spark plugs, which are TR7IXs. They haven't been in the car that long, but once I started getting this issue with misfire on cylinder 8, I'll just give it a fresh new coil wires along with plugs. And I'm going to show you that how much difference like gapping has to do with it, because I was totally green to that. Alright guys, so I'm going to give you kind of a little rundown of the issue I was having, what the quick fix was for that issue. And I want to just say before we dive into this, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not an engineer, so take all this with a grain of salt, and definitely, you know, confide in your mechanic if you have one, or just do a little bit more research. Everything that I'm going to tell you is kind of what, you know, I ran into, so I went and researched, so I'm just going to pass it on to you guys. Hopefully it'll help you out a little bit, if any at all. So once again, these are the spark plugs that actually run in these cars, especially under boost level. There might be a different, better spark plug for you guys for your application, but once you start up and boost, you're creating heat. So what I use is TR7IX 3690s. Great plugs. They're actually in the car now, and they've only been in there probably 5,000 kilometers. I'm probably overkilling this by upgrading, but I want to put in new coil wires and new plugs into it. But I'm rambling a little bit here now. So once again, $23.17 for freight just to get these in Newfoundland. So hold my tongue on that. On your old spark plugs, hopefully I'm getting the shot here. This is out of a snowmobile. It is an NGK, but as you can see, the ground strap is quite thick, and the electrode inside, I'm not sure if it's a copper electrode maybe, as you can see, it's quite robust. So you can kind of play with that, and you kind of have a little bit of tolerance. But now when it comes to your iridium plugs, you can see that the design is quite different, and that little iridium electrode, I want to call it, is actually very slight and very delicate. So the old school way that we always used to do with any other plug, you get your plug gap tool, just a little simple plug gap tool, and you could kind of feel safe and feel confident putting that in there and kind of bending your ground strap against here. And another thing that I noticed is that that electrode is kind of down inside the plug a little bit. So when you're prying, you're actually kind of prying out here on the outer ring of this spark plug. But as you can see with this one, where it's kind of, I want to say, protruded above the threads, if you were prying on that, you're putting 110% prying right against that electrode. So that's something you don't want to do, ruin your plugs. So under this boost level here that I've kind of read and done a bunch of research, right now I'm around 15 to 15.5 PSI boost on this car. I want to be gapped around 30 thousandths of a gap between my ground strap and my electrode. Now, when I hauled those out, which once again, they are TR7IXs, when I hauled those out and I checked the gap on them, they're actually 40 thousandths. So that's really fat of a gap to have under this much boost. So what you will see is that I've seen it called spark plug blowout and arc blowout. And what initially they're talking about is that when the spark jumps between this electrode and this ground strap, the gap's too fat, so it will blow out and there'll be so much cylinder pressure and it'll just blow out the spark. But that's not what's happening from what I can tell. What's actually happening is that the cylinder pressure on the today, Junior, that it just won't arc at all. There's just too much distance to jump and the pressure's too great to overcome. And once again, maybe if you had an upgraded coil pack, maybe something like that, but with the LS engines, these guys run these coil packs up over 1200 horsepower all day long. So we don't need to go that route. So the fix for it, and the quick and easy fix, is to regap these. So under this boost, we need to go around 30 thousandths of 30 thousandths in between there. So what I actually went and got, I actually already done that one. So we'll open up another one here. So right out of the box, we'll just see, I haven't opened these ones. Let's just see what this one is right out of the box. Yeah, so right now we're at around 36 thousandths. And to be quite honest with you, that might be fine in that car. Those previous ones that are in the car right now, they were at 40 thousandths, so that was way too much. So what this is just a spark plug gap tool, and it actually comes in an M14 and M12, so you really need to know which thread pitch you guys have on your spark plugs. But it's fairly cheap. I think it was $12 or $18 or something like that. So all you do, you screw that up there. And this is you kind of want to do this very slowly in increments, because if you go too far, not really sure how I'm going to get that back without doing any damage to the electrode. I think there is a proper gun that you can get. And someone's watching this now is, how come I don't have this in here while I'm, how come I don't have this in there, screw down, and when it hits solid, that's 30 thousandths. But the way it's kind of set up is that this ridge here actually comes in contact with the bottom of our screw here, and it won't tighten down to 30 thousandths. So we're going to do a little quick, that's 60 thousandths. So right now I'm dead on 30 thousandths, and I'm going to call that good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the rest of these. I've already done that one, so 6. And we'll start ripping into the car and swapping them out. And we got them all at 30 thousandths, and I went and just double checked everything. I wouldn't call this like super like machinist grade stuff, but it done the job and it was fairly cheap, so I'm kind of happy with it. The one thing that you kind of have to look out for when you're doing this is that, as you can see, the ground strap kind of comes up and down a little bit. It kind of arcs back towards the electrode. So when you're screwing that down, it actually makes contact right here on your highest point. So when you put, say, like a couple thousandths there, it really tightens this up pretty quick. So you got to be really on top of it. And I'm 1 or 2 there kind of messed up. So on this thing here, you can kind of see it's kind of like a wedge, and it goes right up to, I believe, 100,000, something like that, 90 thousandths. And it's designed that you can kind of turn, but with that electrode, I didn't want to do anything like that. So I kind of just held it, and I kind of manhandled it and pulled, and hopefully it'll be fine. It doesn't seem like we've done any damage, so we're going to send it, see what happens. And once again, maybe I'm being a little bit overthinking it. Maybe they're not as dainty as I'm kind of making out to be. I kind of have you set up on my head here, my head cam. We're going to start with cylinder 8, which is buried in here, of course. Sometimes it's easier to actually take the coil pack off. Sometimes you can kind of get around it, but another thing with cylinder 8, I'm not really sure if it was a coincidence or not, but hopefully you guys aren't getting thrown around too much. But the plug wire, coil wire, was actually, as you can see, this little bit of I guess rubber isolator was actually damaged, and I don't remember if I did that. I don't think I did. Maybe it was something when the guys put the cam in or something like that. I'm not really sure. But not really sure if that would be a misfire issue. I don't think so because the cable looks solid. This kind of sucks. I'm not too happy with how that heat shield looks, but once again, it is a heat shield, so I guess we won't be too picky about it. Man, it does suck. So, 16 mil. Try to get it down there without doing too much damage. And one thing, it's not so bad if you have new plugs to replace what you're taking out, but I mean, you don't really want to damage these things. Hopefully you guys are kind of seeing my view and not just looking at, I don't know, wiring or something. See if that's it. And guys, before you freak out and say, you know, you leaned against the car or whatever, I rocking my best attire. So a little bit of jogging pants. Might go rob a knock over a 7-Eleven later, not really sure. We got cylinder 8 out, a little bit of blood, a little bit of scrapes, but we're good. One thing I will say about the external mic is that I seem to be having some clicking issues. I'm not really sure what that's all about. But once again, this is the NGK's Iridium TR7iXs that came out of that one, cylinder 8. And as you can see, it's 30 thou, so that one's really great. I'm going to replace that one with a new one. And one thing, these spark plugs, they always seem like they're burnt perfectly, like it's not a rich or lean condition, but you always get this orange tinge. And what I'm actually after researching, and people are after telling me, is actually that the VP Octanium that I actually run in this will actually do that. And they say it's not safe for injectors, it's not safe, not injectors, sorry, it's not safe for catalytic systems. So if you have cats, it's going to kind of gum up all that on you, and you're probably going to have a issue with that type of stuff. So once again, I'm not really sure what's on the go with the external mic. It was clicking, but once I'm not running that and I'm just running regular GoPro sound, it sounds absolutely horrible. All the other sounds like I'm in a padded room or something. But we're going to go with this, and hopefully the clicking don't drive people up the wall too much. But as you can see, very tight area to get in, but not too bad. We will prevail. As you can see, we have a Moroso catch can. Takes out all that old oil and stuff from the supercharger had. One of those things where you lay something down and then you're hanging around, looking around for an hour trying to get it. So actually a little bit of commentary, I guess, before I put you on time lapse to do all these, because I'm sure you're not going to want to see every one of these being done. But I actually bought this car in Alberta and drove it back from Alberta to Newfoundland. And I bought it with 21,000 kilometers onto it, which was pretty rare since this is 2011. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago, so it wasn't used very much. So a lot of people will probably be like, well, why even changing the coil wires and all that? But it's kind of a modification type car. I'm always playing with it, so may as well take a little bit of care of it. One thing that I will say with these LS motors and whatnot is that they hold a lot of heat. Like when I come home from even just a drive, as you can see, I have all this padding taken out because it seems to hold so much heat. Not to the point that it'll overheat or anything like that, but when I come home from even just a regular Sunday drive, open the hood when I park it just to let the heat out, because I find it just so crazy how much heat stays inside underneath the hood. Another thing as well, that in Newfoundland, a lot of people will always say, like, when they see this car, it's either, hey, that got the Corvette motor into it, or B, it's a North Star. And sort of, I guess, with the Corvette thing, I mean, the V1s did have the 5.7 out of the Z06, the predecessor year, but definitely not a North Star, thankfully. But yeah, I guess they're, like you say, they're not really rare. I mean, we live on an island, guys, with a little over 500,000 people, and we're probably, I don't know, you could probably fit 3 Manhattan Islands in the same square kilometers as Newfoundland is, and we only have 500,000, whereas they got 3 million. So there's quite a bit of difference of, you know, people and population density and whatnot. So there's not many of these cars, and when people do see it, they either think, like I say, it's Corvette engine and or North Star, but couldn't be further from either. I mean, a lot of Corvettes do run a 6.2, of course, but this is actually based on the 6.2 LS3 with aluminum block, of course, but it actually shares the same engine of the ZL1 Camaro. Now, from what I've been reading on these and researching, is that the ZL1, actually the Cadillac actually had the motor before the ZL1, so it's pretty cool to know. Sweet. Sure, if I wanted to jack it up, you could probably get 8-cylinder from down below, but this is probably going to be annoying some people because it looks like I'm just kind of making a mess, but whatever. I'll drink beer if you guys want to come and do it for me. Yeah. So I think that should be tight enough. And we'll go and put a new coil back on. Really not happy with that. Put the new coil wire on. Try to anyways. That's a nice solid click. I like that. And one thing with the coils, I find that you almost need to wait till you get 1-2 click, maybe. That's the way it seemed like on the other ones. 1, 2, see? So, oh, maybe I got another 3, whatever. Just make sure they're solid, hey, for sure. But, make sure they're not touching anything. Yep, seems to be good. On to the next one. So guys, I'll probably just throw you on time lapse because you're not going to want me to do all this. For the most part, I believe cylinder 8 is probably one of the worst ones. Maybe this cylinder here. The whole passenger side, right, left bank completed. I had you guys on time lapse on the top of my head with the GoPro, and it kind of would make you seasick. So I'm not going to use that shot anymore, that angle. I'll probably just edit it and put it in like B-roll just so you guys can get a little bit of a glimpse of what it was like. But so we have this side done. For the sake of this video, I call this one number 8. So number 6, which is right here, it actually has a dipstick tube ran right on top of it. And of course you have these little clips that were made from, I don't know if Satan designed those when he was engineering those or something. But anyways, that was right in the way. That one was probably the hardest one so far. But other than that, you take the coil off, you take your time, you won't get cut up too bad. So we have this side done, this side's complete, new plug wires. Have it all buttoned up, all these coils are on solid. We have all brand new coil plugs. So before I put all the plastic back on and our stiffener bar, whatever, I'm just going to give it a little idle and see if anything's missing, or you know. But I think we should be good. It's all brand new. So my hands are a little dirty, which kind of sucks. Trying to take the door. The interior is a little bit dirty, guys. Don't judge me too hard. think we're good, guys. I think we got it. So I think I'm just going to throw all that plastic back on and perhaps we'll take a little quick drive. It's a beautiful day out actually in Newfoundland, so we'll start with this. Washer. So the one thing, guys, you don't want to hit is this. This car actually has magnetic ride control. You hit the button and it'll stiffen up your suspension. But knock on wood, I haven't had to play with that yet. Still a low kilometer car, even though it is kind of, you know, it's getting old right now. But hopefully, I'm sure they're quite expensive to replace. Alright guys, so I got you on my GoPro again at the top of my head. So hopefully you guys can kind of see. I'm at this is kind of like an industrial area in CBS. Usually no one's really in around here on the weekends. I think the nearest house is probably like 5-10 kilometers away or something, so I came in here just so you get an idea of what the car kind of sounds like. Ever since I replaced the plugs, I just, like you say, this is probably about a 20-minute drive away from my house, and I noticed like throttle response and everything's a lot crisper, so pretty content with the way that kind of panned out there. This car, we kind of have, I'll give you a little bit of a list of a rundown, I guess. We have a BTR, Brian Tooley Racing, stage 3 torque cam. I don't drag this car or anything like that, so I wasn't really looking for the peak numbers. I just like that little bit low end torque. We have full exhaust, Borla, runs in the S-types. I don't think they make the Cadillac anymore because I think they went to the Attack mufflers, so they probably just changed the name. But I'm sure if you reached out to them, I'm sure they still have a Cadillac for the CTS-V. I think it sounds excellent. Can be a little bit loud. That's kind of why I came in here away from everybody. But yeah, I'm actually super grateful I had this car and I had the opportunity to be able to kind of work my ass off to grab one. And just a pleasure to drive. It has everything kind of wrapped in one. I mean, it has full air conditioning. I mean, if you ever drove a Corvette, I find like they feel a little bit cheap, believe it or not. I mean, they're kind of a race car and they're meant for a track day car, but you know, this kind of has best of both worlds. Granted, it is a little bit heavier than most Corvettes, of course, but yeah, you get that 6.2 V8, great torque, great horsepower. They come factory with 556 horsepower and 551 foot-pounds of torque. So I mean, it has plenty of go just from factory. But with these rounded mods and what we have down here, it's an amazing car. I love it. Probably just go in here a little bit, and we'll just, as you can see, like I'm just climbing up these hills. Right now I'm around 1800 RPM, 4th gear. The thing is just chugging. It doesn't even care. Just such a great torquey motor, and you'll always get that with a supercharger. Right here is a scrapyard, of course, so you might want to watch the tires. Yeah, I figured I'd just come here and just do a couple little, I don't know, drive-bys or something, just so you can get a feel of what the car sounds like outside. And to be quite honest with you, I haven't even heard the car outside since I done the cam and whatnot, so it might be pretty cool just to see what it sounds like. guys are doing training in there, so probably not. Maybe I won't play around there like I wanted to. So like that wasn't even matted, that was like max 3/4 throttle. So it pretty much puts you back in the seat pretty good. Today is kind of a humid day and probably not the best boost weather, but so guys, there you have it. It's really hot today. It's probably like 25 degrees, believe it or not, real humid and real sunny. So didn't really want to break those 285 Continentals loose, but she done it. When we hit third, she kind of wanted to just take off and go. But that gives you kind of an idea of the whole exhaust setup. Call it a day a success. The dogs, of course. Demi! They need their Timbits when we come home. Hey, there's the monster. So yeah guys, I think that's gonna be a wrap for today. I'm gonna hang out with the dogs for a bit, and thanks for watching. If you like what you're seeing, just like, subscribe, comment, share, do your thing. It's usually appreciated. All right, thanks guys, see you on the next build.